Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Nello. Today we're going to discuss SQL or Python. Which one is a better language to learn as a complete beginner? If you're just starting out your career in data and you're trying to learn a programming language, a lot of people have questions around SQL or Python, like which one should I learn? Should I learn SQL or should I learn Python? I'm going to tell you my own personal journey, and then I'll tell you what I recommend for you, especially if you are interested in data careers. As you guys already know from following this channel, my background is heavily in data. I've had a data career, even though my degree is in computer science. And I'm going to tell you guys exactly what I think you should learn first, SQL or Python. So let me start with my background. I actually started out learning PHP. PHP was the first programming language that I learned. I learned that in Nigeria during my CS degree. When I moved here, I took another CS degree, an associate in computer science, and I learned C++ here. So that was actually when programming started to become interesting to me. Like in Nigeria, I didn't really care about like my CS degree. I just did it because I thought it was going to be a really good degree to have. But after I took C++ classes and I also took some Java classes, I started to realize that it's actually possible to learn to code. And at that time, coding wasn't as accessible as it is now. I kept thinking, you know what? It's actually doable to learn and be able to write this code and all that. I actually self-taught Python. You have to understand, when I was doing the associate degree, I thought I was going to work as a software engineer or like some engineering role where I'm having to build software. So I was heavily learning C++ and Java. Then I found out about data science online through Instagram, actually through a lot of Instagram ads where they were talking about data science. At this point, data science was one of the sexiest jobs of the century. Being that I already had a technical background, I started learning Python. I have a CS degree. I took calculus classes. When I was in Nigeria, I took further math classes. So Python was very, very easy for me to learn. I was able to learn Python like this. And then with my knowledge in Python, I'd worked on a few projects on Python. I started searching for jobs. I was searching for jobs in the data science domain. I had worked on some data science projects with some of my organizations working in analytics. And then for most of the jobs I was working in, they had a lot of opportunity for analytics and not data science. Very important to know. Now, even though my entire resume, my entire projects I had worked on were around machine learning, at that point, there wasn't enough opportunities for my data science jobs in Texas. You have to understand that I live in Texas. Maybe there would have been if I was in New York, SF, or like LA, one of the more advanced tech hubs. But at that point, I live in Texas. So I was getting only analytics opportunities. And so I ended up getting an analytics job. When I got my analytics job, I realized how important SQL is because I started writing queries, pulling data for different departments. And so that was my introduction to SQL. So I didn't actually learn SQL until I was on the job. I didn't learn SQL before I got a job. I learned SQL while I was on the job, but it was really easy for me to learn because I already had learned PHP, Java, C++, Python before I learned SQL, which is usually the reverse for a lot of people. A lot of people learn SQL, then they learn Python, then they start making the progression. So for me, it was kind of the reverse. I have a very unique experience, but I also think that that's one of my strengths because it made me realize immediately that there was an opportunity for me to help people who are looking to get into data careers through learning SQL as opposed to going the hard routes like I went. Because I know a lot of people who were thinking about getting into tech, the first thing they would think about learning is Python, C++, all the hard things I learned. That was one of the reasons why I would go online to say, you don't have to learn all that. You can start with SQL first, because I had to learn all that and I realized that I didn't really use it. Now, is Python important? Yes. As you advance in your career, especially if you want to go the engineering route, if you want to become a data engineer, because a lot of people start with data analytics and then they move to become a data engineer. That's what I've seen anyways. You might start with analytics and be like, oh, the next thing for me, I think I want to do is data engineering. If that's you, you're going to need to know Python. You're going to need to learn Python because engineers use Python. Like I said, there are some roles in the tech space that requires deep technical expertise, that requires deep fundamental knowledge. You need to know like the fundamental things in like the tech space. And this is where people that actually understand data structures and things like this have an advantage over you that you just learn SQL. So what I would recommend, depending on what you want, should you learn SQL or should you learn Python? The answer is it depends on what your career trajectory should be. And this is based on my own personal experience. Like I just shared my journey with you guys. You can take away some things from my own journey. And I don't want to add to this video by also saying that Everybody has a unique experience, and there's an opportunity for you to learn from everybody's journey. Now, personally, I've had a very interesting journey, and one of the reasons I don't usually talk about my experience, or I haven't really talked about like my background publicly as I'm doing now, is because I used to think that, I made so much mistake. I used to think that I needed to have one solid traditional path. Like majority of people, you see them, they have like one straight path. So it's very difficult for me to tell people that you need to walk in my footsteps, because I know that my journey is not as straightforward. But I want you to think about it and take some things out of it, because I still believe that there might be something that you can learn from my experience, even though it's not traditional, even though it's very unconventional. Again, my CS degree is from Nigeria, and then I came here, I did an associate, and then I started my job in analytics, and then I already had done an advanced project, kind of all over the place. But I still think that that's really what made me as generalistic as I am, and made me able to jump into literally any scenario and be able to succeed in it. Like literally, I know that I'm going to succeed if I am in a sales role. I know I'm going to succeed if I'm in an engineering role. Regardless of where you put me, I know that I'm going to succeed. So I think one of the reasons why that is just because of the way my background is, and not everybody has my kind of background. Just one thing for you to note. So if you do want to make the decision, back to the reason for this video, on if to go with SQL or Python, based on my experience, I want to say that I would say if you want to become an engineer, you need to learn Python. Not only do you need to learn Python, you also need to understand the fundamentals of data, like data structures and things like that. Like you cannot just get away with knowing SQL. You have to work on projects that actually push you. AI has kind of changed the game, so it's going to be different the way that we code. But still, having that fundamental knowledge is going to give you a strong edge. So I highly recommend that. But if you just want to stay in analytics, you don't plan on doing any deep development work, then I think that SQL is a really good place for you. Learn SQL, learn Power BI, learn reporting, just learn how to slice data, visualize data. You don't need to go like deep into it as much as the engineers need to do. For data science, you need to go deep. Not only do you need to understand analytics stuff, you also need to understand machine learning, product analytics, how to do A/B testing, how to do experimentation. That should be another video. So if you want me to make a video on the data science part, leave me a comment and I'll do that. I hope you find this video helpful. For those of you who are navigating your data careers, you might be in college trying to decide what to prioritize, what classes to take. You might be a professional who's working in customer service, upskilling and looking to pivot into a technical role. There are different use cases where you're trying to learn, and here is what I would recommend. This is my data analytics guide that I wrote for people who are interested in data careers. There are so many other resources, but this book particularly I wrote based on my experience navigating this world of technology and data, and I hope that it helps someone out there. Again, there are so many other resources out there that you can leverage, free, paid. My book is paid, and I wrote it from my own perspective, my own story. So if that's what you're interested in, that's when I recommend this book. But outside of that, there are a ton of other resources online. Like I said, Microsoft Learn has free resources. You can take classes on Coursera. There are so many other amazing resources that you can leverage to upskill if that is what you're interested in. If you are new here, my name is Nello. I am a founder who loves to talk about tech and AI. If you like this video, make sure you give me a subscribe, a thumbs up, and use the link in my bio to join my newsletter. And as always, I'll see you next week. Good luck.